You going first or I'm going first?
No, go ahead.
Welcome back to the waiting list. We've got a nervous Sam. And yeah, well, first of all, actually, before we start, again, thank you to the RTF for having us today in their lovely building. Yeah, where do we start? This is just so everyone knows, we're not doing kind of a normal episode. I'm going away this week on Thursday, and as you can tell, I'm a bit of a different person today. I'm going to look straight into the camera. I'm a slightly different person today. I'm a bit more on edge. Yeah, so I think, to be fair, actually, I was just thinking it might be an interesting thing to. I remember when I went away last time, and I spoke to you, and it's very interesting how I came out of that. So I think maybe it could be interesting in terms of like a therapy setting to show people how it kind of works.
Okay.
Oh wait, Jimmy, can we just shut this door behind me? You can keep rolling. You can just. So yeah, I mean, how would this be something that you start? So for everyone listening, if there is anyone listening, I'm going to LA on Thursday, which is something that I've spoken about for a very long time, and going for work. Yeah, the 11-hour flight. I'm going with my dad as well, which is a whole nother ordeal in itself. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it more. I was fine a minute ago when we were chatting, but I'm a bit more on edge. How would you go about this, Emmanuel?
Okay. Just a bit of a framework behind the situation. Sam, you have a history of emetophobia, fear of vomiting, and OCD. The result of that, amongst other things, is that you've been cooped up in the safety of your room at home, and so today you are announcing a big step because
my big announcement.
You're going to the States, and whilst maybe to many people it seems it doesn't seem that much of a deal. It is a big deal for people who have anxiety, and whose anxiety leads them to stay in the comfort and security of known places. Yeah. So I think what I hope is that you doing this and achieving this very important milestone will give hope to people who may be listening and thinking that is something I would not be able to achieve because I'm way too anxious to do that. And so that's a bit of the groundwork of today. There's no rigid structure that we need to adhere to. I think it's interesting you saying you've already in the recent past, overcome such a hurdle because you have been abroad. So maybe that's where we can start. And
actually, yeah. So last year, a strange confidence came over me. I won't go into the details of why, but for the first time, I never went out on lads' holidays or anything like that because even though I was invited, I decided maybe not. I won't risk it, and went away, without family or anything like that last year, 3 times, and was on kind of a bit of a roll. So I do have that in the back of my mind. I went to France, I went to Portugal, and I went to Sweden. So places, close enough. And I think, it's that whole thing with exposure therapy. You start to build a bit of confidence, then you do it again. So I went from France, I went with a friend, and then I went to Portugal and I went by myself, and then I went to Sweden again by myself, and I was on like a roll. And I think I've obviously left it a little while. I've gone back into my little what do you call it, my little cave at home, my hole at home. And I think just built up those kind of fears and barriers again. I was just talking to the people next door, and they were asking me about it, and I did say that, once they were saying, how do you, when you go away, and what's that like? And in terms of touching things and gloves, hand wash, whatever it is. And once I'm kind of on the plane, I'm like, oh, there's nothing I can do now. We're on a metal tube flying over the Atlantic. Like, there's nothing I can do. So it's not so much that part. It's it's the typical thing of when I'm there, what if I get ill? Which is playing on my mind quite a lot. And yeah, I don't know. We've obviously, as I said to you when I was growing up, my dad, who I'm going with, which shouldn't be a problem. I'm going with family. I'm going with my dad, who I should very much be trustworthy with, or have trust in. He's the one who's got probably quite a lot of negative energy towards the trip, and I think that's what's probably put me on edge a bit more, because he's going, oh, I've got a bad feeling about this. I've got all these different things. So yeah.
Okay. Then maybe you could tell us a little bit about how, what happened, do you think, that allowed you to go from living for numerous years cooped up in your hole to having that year of venturing out, going to Portugal, going to Switzerland?
You know what my answer is. Well, to be fair, actually, I think it was, we'd gone away to a family holiday, and went skiing with another family, and then I had such a good time. I kind of came back on a high, and then decided to go again, to go and meet someone. Got Jamie raising his eyebrows there. So yeah, I think that was one of the kind of the big factors. It was like, and it was also going to do something active too that I really enjoy doing, which was snowboarding. And I think that once I kind of got that done, and I was on a roll. And then I can't tell you what really pushed me to do it. I don't quite know why I was in such a frame of mind to do it. I think, as I said before, it's really interesting how some days, you can essentially, I don't worry about things. I'll knock most of my kind of routines on the head, and the next day I'll be on, be on edge. I wouldn't say I'm specifically on it. Like, it's just in the back of my mind. Like last night I woke up, I didn't go to sleep until about 1:30, and I woke up about 2:30, dripping in sweat, really tense, and I'm guessing that's playing and also I haven't prepared myself enough. I've been going to the gym loads and exercising, but I know that I should have been meditating and really kind of, sitting with my thoughts and things like that, and I haven't, which I'm going to try and do, I think, today and the next few days before I go. So yeah, I think as well, LA is such a big place. It's kind of a scary place. It's like there's a lot of crazy people there. It's a lot of people really don't like it, and it's something that I've spoken about for a very long time that I want to go to. Even though I used to work for a company there, so I think that's kind of in the back of my head as well. Yeah, it's just there. I'm sure on the night before I'm probably not going to sleep, which might be a good thing because it means I can sleep on the plane. But yeah, I'm just apprehensive and just worried about different things going wrong. Yeah.
Okay, but it seems like you've, in a sense, laid out the blueprint of any type of anxiety, in this case OCD and emetophobia, but ultimately if you allow the anxiety to separate you from challenges, so you stay home in the perceived safety of your room and you don't take many risks, you see that you have a tendency to be more in your head. You'll be asking yourself lots of, but what if? You'll pick up on physical manifestations of your anxiety. For example, you saying, woken up in the middle of the night, dripping, with sweat. So
yeah, my instant thing was when that happened. Am I ill? Am I getting ill?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong?
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
and now I'm tired.
Yeah. All right. Okay. You could say that's a little bit of emotional reasoning, is because I feel a certain way. I'm shaking, I'm trembling, I've got a knot in my stomach, I'm sweating. Because I'm feeling anxious, therefore the thoughts I have must be true. So you give some credence or credibility to. There's other kind of mechanisms that are at play, but broadly speaking, you have obviously on the one hand anything that just induces or exacerbates your anxiety, and then on the other hand, you've told us all these stories about overcoming challenges, facing up to your fears. Not allowing the fear to come in between you and whatever goal you'd set in mind, and whilst very difficult and unsettling, the reward is clear to you, and it kind of stays with you. You can reconnect with the feeling you had coming back from Portugal. You can reconnect with your state of mind in between these travels, and you said you build up momentum, and me building up momentum allowed me to then, each time push myself a little bit further outside of my comfort zone. But then I reverted back to, so you've got the blueprint of what you need to do, and then you can say, well, I haven't prepared myself, I haven't done a mindfulness. I think mindfulness for sure, it's not something you should do more of when you're anxious, unless ideally it's just a constant, and probably the gains are greater when you're not anxious, because just the scope of the things that you address, the richness of thoughts that come up, and the diversity in your thoughts is just clearer to see. Whereas if you're very anxious and there's something very specific to be anxious about, well, it's a bit more narrow. And you'll probably filter out more of these thoughts when you do your mindfulness. So the theory of for sure goes, practice mindfulness daily regardless of how you feel, and surely even when you feel better. But we don't have that tendency. We have the tendency to do these things when we know we're anxious, when work is really stressful, and then you go on a holiday, or maybe there's a bit of a lull, or things are a bit more settled at work, or in your private life, and whatever got you better or made you better, goes out the window. That's just a tendency that all of us have. But I think how we would go about this, if this were a session, is probably would be a good idea to take pen to paper and start writing down all the facts. Again, because the mind has a tendency to completely dismiss the facts and hold on to what is,
emotional.
What is emotional, that sense of, and so you could write tons of stuff, all the challenges you've overcome, the gains, the discrepancy.
What's happened in the past.
Even worst case scenario. What if that were to unfold? Then you have a contingency plan. And then obviously shying away from all the tendencies you would have is Googling all sorts of information about healthcare provisions or hygiene measures wherever you're going to dine or eat and sleep and so on. Because whilst that will in the moment reduce your anxiety, how it works. On the long run, it just fuels your anxiety.
Yeah, it's funny as well, because I'm sure people will be like, it's not like I'm going to a third world country. I'm not going into, the favelas in Brazil. I don't know, somewhere, and staying somewhere random. I'm staying in quite a nice place, really, which most people wouldn't worry about it. But I don't know if it's the flight seems to be on my mind a lot. The 11-hour flight seems to be. Like, I don't know why that specifically is on my mind, but it's also, I think, it's a place I've never been. I've only been to America 3 times, but only to New York, really, which is, you kind of go there and don't leave. and I think that I I can't really picture anything because I haven't seen it before. I don't know what the airport's like. I don't all these different kind of factors. I haven't got it kind of played out in my head.
So you're trying to fill the void? Are you trying to use your imagination to come up with what it may look like? Do you catch yourself?
Yeah, I tried to kind of like. I mean, I remember once, kind of on a side note, when I was going to a film school, and my therapist at the time said, maybe you should go have a look around, like before you go, because I was just doing a short course in, I think it was filmmaking or something, and they'd said you should go have a look around, like the reception, know where you're going, ask for like a tour, and they'll obviously give it to you. You're a student, and this was the week before or something, and I didn't do it, and then I got there on the day and didn't quite know where I was parking. Something went wrong, and I kind of just got to the door and freaked out and didn't go in. Eventually went back 5 months later or whatever. And I think that's quite an important thing. So when I've done things in the past, the night before, I'll check it out, or I'll get there early and look around, so I kind of know where things are. Because it's kind of like what you know is comfortable. So yeah, it's. Can we just pause for a second so I can blow my nose? Because I'm literally. Sorry, everyone, I just had to blow my nose. My hay fever's playing up. What were we talking about? Oh, going to the film school. So yeah, I think I'm trying to imagine what it is going to be like in when I get there, things like that. I don't know if it's helping me or not that I'm going with my dad, because as my brother can attest before, he's a little bit wacky and can be difficult to deal with, especially in airports and travelling. he does not like so.
The toe.
The what?
The toe.
The toe? Oh, the toe. Yeah, there's always problems on planes with him and things like that. So I think that's probably in the back of my mind. I honestly, I know I spoke about it for ages. My friends are probably going to laugh. I don't think if he wasn't coming, I don't think I would have been able to do it. I don't think I would have ever booked it or gone through with it. So it's probably a positive and negative. But I kind of thought about it the other day. I was like, I don't think I'd be doing this without him, because it's just too long. I probably wouldn't do it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm kind of here, there, and everywhere. It's probably not going to make much sense for people listening to, because I can't. It's not really me explaining it. It's just me going, I'm freaking out. But yeah, it's and then there's the whole E. coli thing going on at the moment as well with food and stuff like that. So I think that's in the back of my head. It's a multitude of things, and just thinking something bad could happen. I've got bad feet. It's the whole thing of like trying to. People always say like follow your gut feelings. I should not follow my gut feelings, because my gut feelings are always like you're gonna die, or not gonna die, but you're gonna get ill. Yeah. Which I think it's always very interesting to hear people say that.
Yeah, that's a rule. That nothing is entirely bad, nothing's entirely good. Give it a bit of time. What seems good may turn out to be a negative, and vice versa. Yeah. So, and that's the beauty is ultimately there's a lot of letting go that needs to happen. What you're trying to do is desperately trying to control an outcome which isn't within your purview. It's not within your control. But somehow your mind tricks you that by running over these scenarios over and over and over again, preparing you for every eventuality, every type of illness, every type of situation you can dream of, that you keep yourself, safer, yeah? But that's what anxiety is that desperately trying to hold on to air, and you just got, there are no limited amount of scenarios that may, unfold when you travel to LA, yeah? So you trying to do that in your mind is just a non-starter to begin with, and the more you do that, the higher anxiety will be, the more you'll notice physical symptoms of it. It will impact your sleep, your appetite, all sorts of kind of metrics. But it also, and that's the thing about anxiety. It tricks you into believing that you're ultimately keeping yourself safer. Yeah, that's one part of the equation. Now you say your dad's accompanying you. You don't really know whether it's a good or bad thing. That's exactly what it is. You don't know. Yeah. I do agree. I think there's a likelihood of you not going had you not received the reassurance of your dad coming along. But once you'll have overcome the challenges and you're in the plane, then suddenly you'll connect with that, the annoyance of it, because you'll have a bit more bandwidth. Your anxiety will have subsided. It will have created a void. You'll want to fill that void up with something. You may be watching movies and distracting yourself. You may also be much more attuned to everything your dad says and does, and get annoyed about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's very loud about things as well. So if he's unhappy about something, if he'll start sighing, and you can hear him making a lot of noise, and I'll be sat across the aisle from him. So I think it's like the embarrassing thing of him as well, because I know people kind of go, what the fuck? Like, he's, like all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jamie. All those types of things he likes to do, and just make a lot of noise. Yeah, so I think there's that as well. Jamie wants me to move over.
All right. Why don't we just check? I mean, again, if I were to ask you, when you speak of, when your mind really is connected with these thoughts and visions of you being abroad, and you all the bad stuff that may happen, it's what do you feel? What emotions do you feel?
I think probably just worry.
Just worry.
I mean, it's not as because of the pills I'm on, the escitalopram. I think it's more dull, than it would be usually, because usually it's a bit more like intense. This is just a bit more dull. Like, it's just like a worry niggling at the back of my head, like going on. Yeah. And
niggling at the back of your anywhere else. Like, if I were to invite you to close your eyes and very gently just scan your body from head to toe, and just
probably my shoulders.
Your shoulders, yeah.
And then probably my stomach as well.
Yeah. Have you noticed how as the episode progresses, your postures become more and more closed, and now you've got your arms crossed, which you would never normally do. Okay. And obviously it's not to put you on the spot, but there's one of the things you can do is, okay, so you're well attuned to the fears and anxiety, the worry and so on, and there's a physical reaction to that. What's the place that you go to where you would have the opposite reaction, where if you could be there, and that could be your room.
Do you mean like pure bliss?
Yeah, you can call it a safe place or a calm place, or
I don't really know what that is anymore. Like, no, I don't want to sound too depressing here, but I feel like I've been so, by my own kind of fault, been so stressed for the last few years, like so hyperfixated. I don't remember the last time that I was completely and utterly just like him, just pretty relaxed, like not really fussed about anything, not concentrating on one thing, just like. I'd want to say probably just like lying on a beach or something, but even then, I know that when I'm lying on a beach, I'm concentrating on my phone and what my hands are touching, and if the water and all those different things. So I don't really know what that is anymore. Maybe just like sitting in the sun, with unwashed hands, not touching my phone, just lying in the sun. That's probably the best I can get. Or eating a spag bowl. Mum's spag bowl.
Okay.
If it's overcooked.
Well, let's see. We can, edit it out. But let's check how anxious you are at the moment on a scale between 0 to 100. 100 being, the worst anxiety possible. 0 being, the state of bliss that you described. Where would you say you are presently?
probably like a 60.
Oh.
Over the halfway mark, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, yeah.
Okay.
Just because everything I do over the next few days, I'm very much going to be concentrated on. I'm going away on Thursday. I need to make sure that I'm, So if there's, like, usually if I wash my hands and I go, oh, I won't wash them anymore, I don't need to. I'll go, I should wash them just once more to make sure that they're definitely clean. Or whatever it is.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd probably say about 60%.
Alright, cool. Then let's do a bit of mindfulness. Yeah, we're
On camera.
Yeah, on camera for sure. But we can do edit in, edit out. You just take the whole middle piece out because otherwise 5 minute exercise. But let's see if it works. Yeah.
Okay, Jamie, do you want to do it with us?
Yeah, of course, we'll do it with us. All right. So I'll invite you to.
I might fall asleep because I'm tired.
Okay. Well, it will be what it will be. Whatever it is, it's just it. I'll invite you to close your eyes. And you don't have to, but you can put your hands on your knees. More importantly is, as long as you feel comfortable, you can have a, straight up posture, but again, it's not a necessity. And we're going to tune into the breath. Yeah. And I'll invite you to start breathing consciously in through the nose. And you don't have to count 1, 2, 3, breathing in. And you keep it there for a second. And you exhale through the mouth. And the exhale, if you can, is slightly longer, slightly more forceful than the inhale. So it goes 1, 2, 3, in. Keep it in for a second. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, very importantly, during the whole length of this exercise, your mind will most probably drift. It will drift to all sorts of thoughts, some very random, maybe a grocery list, maybe some stuff from the past, maybe some very irrelevant thoughts, or maybe some more anxiety-provoking thoughts. But whenever that happens, just know it's absolutely fine. You're not doing it wrong. Shy away from labeling yourself as not being apt at doing the mindfulness or not doing it correctly. But simply notice the thoughts arising in your mind, and then when you can, very gently bring your attention back to where you want your thoughts to be. I'll invite you to maybe focus on expanding the belly and using the diaphragm to breathe in by expanding the belly when you breathe in and exhaling. Do that a couple more times. And then I'll invite you to forget about the breathing. And you'll see that the breathing will continue on its own. You don't need to consciously do that. You can, but you don't have to. And instead, bring the awareness of your mind down to the sole of your feet. And just allow your mind to rest at the sole of your feet and see if you can pick up on any sensations. Maybe a throb of your heart, maybe a tightness, maybe warmth, maybe any sensation really you can pick up on, the weight of your feet. And if you can, try and imagine roots shooting from the sole of your feet, or your feet just sinking into the floor. And this is all about becoming aware that you don't need to do anything. You don't need to carry yourself, but the floor does that for you. And if you pick up on any tension, Just let it dissipate. Like water runs over you in a shower, just let it sink into the floor. Allow your feet to become heavy. Now gently bring the attention to your shins and your calves. And you can, but you don't have to tense up. Maybe on an inhale, let go on an exhale. If you don't want to do that, just simply allow your mind to bask at the level of your shins and your calves and see if you can pick up on anything. I'll remind you very gently that if and when your mind drifts, that's absolutely fine. If you notice it happening, gently bring your attention back to where you want it to be. Gently bring your attention to your knees. Allow your mind to bask there for a minute or so. If your hands are resting on your knees, maybe you feel the warmth of your hands or your fingers resting on your knees. Maybe you can even tune into the feelings inside of your knees. Maybe you feel some air, coldness or dryness of the air. Now gently bring your attention to your lower back and your bum sitting in your chair. Connect with any sensation that your mind can pick up on. As if your mind were a cloud, just drifting at that height. Maybe you feel the firmness or the softness of your chair. Maybe you feel a stinging or tingling sensation or a numbness. Just bask in the attention of any physical sensations you can pick up on. Gently bring your attention along your spine from your lower back up to your upper back and your shoulders. There again, just simply observe whatever sensations you can pick up on. Bring the attention from your shoulders down your arms to your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, your hands, your fingers, your fingernails. And just notice. Do you feel a coldness? Do you feel a warmth? Do you feel air? Do you feel stillness? Feel the throbbing of your heart in your fingertips. Feel your fingers resting on your legs. Gently bring your attention to your neck. If you pick up on any tension, just let go. Now we're going to explore the sensations of the head, and I'll invite you to relax every single cell, every single muscle or ligament on your scalp, your forehead, your ears, your cheekbones, eyes, eyebrows, eyelids, around your eyes, your nose, your nostrils, your jaw, your lips, your tongue. Just very gently, just bask in the awareness of any physical sensation. And again, if your mind drifts, allow it to drift, just observe it, don't judge yourself. And very gently bring your attention back to where you want it to be. Whenever you feel ready for it, just gently bring yourself back to the room and open your eyes. Tell me about what what happened? What did you notice?
I could hear Nobbed over here making a lot of noise.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I should have. Yeah, I could have said something.
Did you give up?
No, I didn't give up.
But he's on his phone.
No, I enjoyed it. No, I think.
Why are you on your phone then?
Because my phone went.
What do you mean?
So I a phone call.
Oh, why were you making so much
And
noise?
I thought I can't get back into it because he started.
How long ago did you get the phone call in?
Well, never mind. Tell me a little bit about your experience. What happened? And then remember, there's no right, no wrong.
Welcome back, everyone, to the waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a bit more chilled out now.
No.
I'll be honest, not too much came up. Like, no. I don't really think about America once. I don't think. I'm just trying to think what. Yeah, I think I was quite in it anyway.
Which is remarkable. I thought it may or may not work, but given the setup, the light, Jamie being here, taking phone calls midway,
fucking kicking things, whatever you were doing. Why did you keep on going like that?
Forget it.
I can't meditate.
Well, you could, but
You got to practice. You got to practice.
But
where your mind wants to go. I was literally battling like 4 stories in my head.
Okay, but that's the thing. Like people think, oh, because my mind's busy, I can't meditate. No, exactly. You noticing that happening is meditation. It's not about being zen and floating up in the air. It is about realizing that your mind is a factory of thoughts that runs 24/7, that you have no say into what it thinks and says to you, but you can become aware of it, and that is mindfulness. Yeah, it's not about I'm not thinking anything. You could say, well, maybe in the later stages, but you having been able to notice what you label as I'm not able to do it. No, you are doing mindfulness because you're clocking that your mind's on 24/7, coming up with all sorts of stories. You said 4 different stories. So congratulations, you've just practiced mindfulness, very well, because from that you can then start to build on, wait a minute, if my mind is working 24/7 like that, and in a time span of a few minutes, even when I try to focus on something else, it doesn't quite listen. That's such an important insight. Why? Because most of us, the emotions that we feel during the day make us act. Yeah, we are responding to emotions, but where do these emotions come from? Well, what you've just noticed, this mind that 24/7 produces thoughts over which you have no say. Yeah. So you noticing that's mindfulness. Yeah. Now if you practice it consistently or daily, little and often, you can then develop this ability to, right, I see what's happening, I notice it, but I'm not reacting to it. I'm very gently bringing myself back to what I want to be doing. Yeah. So and well, that's mindfulness, and you being able to do that, you'd be in the 1%. Yeah. Because it is simply a skill that pretty much no one practices. Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but if you were to do, if you're able to do that, just notice your thoughts, but not react to it, and gently, consistently, throughout the day, be it with colleagues, be it with loved ones or partners or whatnot, being cut off in traffic, you're amongst, you know, the 1% of people who just are able to be zen, be in the moment, and not constantly be reacting to emotions.
Yeah, I will say that when I did it a lot, like throughout COVID, no, but not. Well, in COVID, I did it like twice a day, every day for about half an hour, like each time. And there were times where I would literally be like, "Oh, like that's just a thought. I'll see you later," and just carried on with my day, and would have no issue with anything. So I don't know, and I'm obviously visibly much calmer now. But I'm also tired. I'm like,
yeah, sure.
I think from people that I know that have tried it before, they kind of just fall asleep. They just start nodding off, which I also do, yeah. But I don't know, it's good. I think you should try it more, Jamie.
It's like when I sleep, I'll have like 2 dreams in one sleep, like at the same time. My head will, and I'll wake up because of it. Like having one dream, which is like me parachuting out of a plane or something, and then there's another one of me just like doing some homework, and like they're both on at the same time, and my mind is like trying to choose which one it wants to see, and then I start like coming, yeah, it's not great. It's not a nice place.
Do you want to sit here?
But I just started throwing up.
Yeah, no, well, listen, thanks. I think the more people share, the more. Listen, I've seen about 1,500 to 2,000 clients, yeah, and you know, I've come to the realization we're all very similar.
Oh, not different.
No, we're really not that different, and that includes myself. You know, the clients may not know, but a lot of the stuff that they bring and they say, "Oh, I'm doing this," and take. So do I take. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that, because you know, obviously you don't want the pendulum to swing too far to the opposite side and everything to become pathologized and everything becomes a mental health, you know, crisis. But I think just kind of casually throwing in this, you know, "Oh, I do that," it just normalizes the experience that we all have, and unless you have a soundboard to understand that you're not alone in this, far from, and I would even say, you know, it's about thresholds. Like everyone, well, I don't know about that, but for example, I have some checking behavior that I've been doing for a long time. Just in the evening, I go around the house, I check the doors. I could go up on the first floor and then, did I really check that, and go back? You know, it's you know, checking compulsion.
Would you say that since you've had kids though?
Yeah. It's something I developed as a kid, and it's
No. I said since you had.
No. I've always done it. Yeah, but it doesn't impact my day-to-day life. You know, as my wife, you know, a little bit. And I don't spend hours doing it. So I'm sub-threshold.
Once you do it once.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is, well, I happily, you know, throw that in here because, you know, I know many people struggle with difficulties, which obviously, if it's consistent and it impacts your life, it becomes a difficulty that you know could address and work through therapy, or if need be, if clinically appropriate medication. But also, let's not forget that it's not only within the clinical population. So people who have, you know, difficulties above a certain threshold for which they receive a formal diagnosis, if they seek treatment at all in the first place. But there's also the vast majority of us, if not everyone, who has some of these, you know, compulsions. I mean, just, you know, touch wood. That's a prime example. Like, who doesn't do, "Oh, touch wood"? It's a compulsion, isn't it? It's void of any rational belief. No way that, you know, me touching wood is going to change the outcome of what I've just said. Yet, it's culturally accepted as being a thing. Well, it's a compulsion. You know? Well, clinically speaking, you may say no because you might resist it and so on and so on. But it's a type of compulsion. You know, it's just a habit that, you know, people do, and it's accepted culturally. And I don't know, to a varying degree, people will feel uneasy if they're not able to do it.
If they don't do it, yeah.
So it's good to have these, you know, very kind of open and transparent conversations about that.
Yeah, see, with me, if I don't touch wood, whatever it is, it's I'm like, oh, it's going to happen without a doubt.
So how would you obviously overcome that? On a couple of months, how would you overcome that?
Well, you don't do it.
Yeah, and you learn to
And
deal with
you
the distress that
slowly.
arises. Yeah.
That's the same with like 3 drains. You know 3 drains.
Oh yeah, my children have started to. I didn't know what they were on about.
I will.
2 and 3
like,
drains.
if someone's walking, 2 people are walking towards me. There's 3 drains there. Someone's walking towards both sides. I will just go. Like I won't. I will just push him. I will shoulder someone out of the way to knock on 3 drains. And I will, if I do have to walk over it, like there's no way I can go over it, I will, in the middle of the street, walk and spit on the thingy, because apparently that gets rid of it. Where that's come from, most people don't even know about that one.
Yeah, no, the spitting, no, but all right, there again, you know, if you want to free yourself of that compulsion, you have to go.
But I've walked over them before. I have walked over it before.
Oh, yeah, you have.
I haven't been able to go back and, you know, if I'm doing whatever, and if I'm in a meeting and I can't with someone and I can't just walk and start spitting on the drain. So I've walked over it before. So in that one I kind of know, but touch wood's such a universal one.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with, again, bringing it back to going away. I know over the next few days, my routines are going to be higher. Like they are going to just. I don't know if it's even worth trying to combat them, or I just kind of give in to them because I'm going away. I know you'd probably say like you'd need to try and go against them anyway.
Well, yes and no. I think that it would really depend on the situation. So indeed, is there really value for you to heighten your distress in the days before the big challenge? I think it's too short. Like you're right. If it's to the detriment of the possibility of you going to the States, I would say no. Going to the States is obviously the big hurdle.
Yeah.
And if you do that, your baseline OCD lower or increases depending on how you look at it.
Right,
but meaning you'll be able to, you know what now, for example, like a drain, walking over 2 or 3 drains, whatever it is, coming back from the States, that will not seem a big challenge because obviously you've overcome this, you know, way bigger challenge. Anything below that, it can work in quite a hierarchical way where you have little upsets, you know, small anxiety-inducing obsessions and compulsions, and then you can work your way up to the bigger one. And it does tend to follow the logic that if you can tackle a big one, the ones on your hierarchical structure shouldn't be such an issue anymore. Yeah, so I would much rather you, when you come back, push yourself, and take note of that and keep track of it. Again, that's the thing that people don't do sufficiently, is the keeping track of the progress. Why? Because the mind just deletes all of that, and it has its default, you know, setting, which is I'm going to align with my, you know, how I feel. Yeah, because what I feel primes, you know, what I'm thinking and rational explanation, so on. So
it's like react to the emotion you feel.
Yeah. So that, you know, that's what we revert back to, and then the bias kind of, you know, completely negating all the positives and the challenges you've overcome and so on, and you know, that. So you know, it starts by recognizing how your mind works, accepting how it works, but accepting not in a way that, oh, I don't need to do anything about it, but the accepting in not judging yourself for it, you know. Or it's not because you know, because if you start to derive meaning from your thoughts, okay, I've just had this really crazy thought. If I'm thinking that, therefore it must mean I am, yeah. And you can fill in the blanks with whatever. If you start to do that, obviously that's where you, you need to just accept, and then you can start to challenge it. So
okay.
I wouldn't, you know, if obviously I don't know if you're in therapy currently, but if you were to, you know, have a therapist, personally, but your therapist may differ from opinion, I would say, no, let's prioritize you going to the States, and how can you just try and keep yourself as relaxed as possible. Obviously, you can't spend your days from morning till evening doing mindfulness, but clearly it works. Yeah. Well, if I were to take a reading from you now, or even a few minutes ago, would it still be 60, or what would you say it dropped down to?
I don't really know. I mean, better question. You can tell. For like, what can you? Do you think?
Yeah, but then you'd be surprised at the discrepancy between what is going on internally. So you may be, feeling all sorts of stuff internally and feel very tense and have these thoughts of, almost as if the anxiety that you feel internally is projected outwardly and is visible for all to see. That's not the case. Yeah, that, for example, people with social anxiety have that thought is, they have to interact in with other people in a social setting, and they become so consumed by how they come across to the others, and sometimes it can almost feel like having out-of-body experience where they see themselves interact almost from a third-party position, like a fly on the wall watching the interaction. But it's just being so
everything is questioned.
Everything, and they're so inside of themselves. They're so, it's a very internal process. And oh my God, say something, or they must think you're awkward, and they don't know what to do with their hands. But all these processes which, are happening internally, there's only a slight proportion of that is, visible externally. So when you say, you started the podcast by saying, as you can tell, I'm in a different state of mind. I think you'd be surprised if you could take a reading. Yeah. People would say, I haven't seen you before, but I wouldn't say you're particularly anxious. Or if people know you well, they may say, yeah, okay, you crossing your arms, or people who really know you well might see the little signs, but it really isn't as overt, as easy to notice as you think it is.
Yeah, I think there's friends of mine, I think my mum as well, she'll go, what's wrong? Like she can pick up on it. I don't know if Norbert can, but it's very interesting. But okay, fine, I'm definitely feeling calmer after that. I don't think we'll show the 5 minutes of meditation in the podcast.
No, but maybe just a bit of it. But
it might be actually quite interesting to see the before and after. Because you'll be able to see it in real time.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I've definitely dropped. I've definitely dropped.
So mindfulness is one tool in your toolbox. Okay. Then there's a whole Russian, you could call it cognitive restructuring. You don't have to call it that. It's just, what is your emotional mind saying? What is your rational mind saying? Writing that down. Yeah. Because rationally speaking, if you can push aside the thoughts that lead you to feel all sorts of emotions, and vice versa, what the emotion leads you to kind of reinforce and give credibility to, if you were to simply write down factually, the same thing would happen. I'm not going to do it now, but we could again take pen to paper and you write all of that down, and then we would take a reading before and after the exercise. And maybe more so than the mindfulness, maybe not as much as with the mindfulness, but there again, your anxiety will have lessened, yeah? But you should, somehow jot it down and have something that reminds you of that process, of either a list of all the factual stuff, why you shouldn't feel all that anxious, and or just a reminder. Then there's some other stuff, like maybe if, something fidgety, is there an object that you have that, maybe it's like a fingerboard, or maybe a squishy thing. Or I know you're not obviously a young child anymore, so maybe something more appropriate to your age, or maybe a picture, or whatever it is, but something.
A vape.
It's controversial. Yeah, controversial. Would you say when you vape, your anxiety goes down?
I've actually tried to stop vaping. Actually, just before we go to this point, does everyone have, I think it might just be interesting for people, does everyone have an emotional side and a rational side? But some
Yes.
people are just more on one side than the other.
Well, side it's not left right brain.
No,
hemisphere,
yeah,
it's a
but-
little bit so, but it's more limbic system and cortex. And
Right,
prefrontal
but as in-
cortex, yeah.
Some people obviously react to things more rationally. Some people react
Yeah.
more emotionally. Some people are a bit more in the middle.
Yeah.
I'd probably like to say I'm a bit more in the middle
Yeah.
when it comes to most things, but then when it comes to this, I'm obviously much more. Maybe not emotional is not the word, but like.
But it's quite specific, isn't it? For example, yes, you have OCD in your, but then your strength lies where for some people they would be petrified. You're very sociable. You can interact with most people, go up to them. You're not very, absorbed with your own
Like
projection.
self-doubt.
Yeah. So there again, you've got your strengths and you've got certain areas where obviously you can work on. So it's difficult to say within the general population there is this group and that group. I think for some, what you wouldn't even think twice about doing, it is a big
The biggest.
hurdle.
It's the same with people being sick. Some people are just like.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And to me, it's literally worlds colliding, end of world.
Well, in your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Very weird.
Mm.
Well, not weird. Just it's interesting how it all works. But anyway, yes, I'm trying to stop vaping.
Okay.
So I decided I'll try and not vape the whole day until 8 p.m, which is probably the worst time because then it's a lot of nicotine before bed.
Mm.
And I didn't realise how much nicotine is in a cigarette. It's 1.8 milligrams,
Mhm.
if that. Because obviously a lot of the time you're not even smoking it; it's just burning.
Mm.
In the vape I've got, it's 18.
So how much again in the cigarette?
1.8.
1.8. So it's
Milligrams.
tenfold, yeah. Okay.
And in the vape it's 18
Yeah.
every hit. And I must hit it 100 times before I go to bed, maybe more.
Mm.
That's quite bad though. Not everyone's like that.
Thanks, Jamie.
I think it's seeing people vape.
You sleep with your vape in your bed.
Yeah, but I don't. I was very.
He literally holds on to it while he's sleeping.
I'm not sure people can actually have a good measure of how much they vape because it's so easy to do. And again with the cigarette, now you would have to go outside and smell. But vape people do it in class apparently. Teenagers people do it watching a movie. It's like biting your nails. You don't realize that you're doing it until someone says, stop biting your nails. But with vaping, imagine you're watching a suspenseful movie. How many cigarettes would that have been? But I'm sure people go, oh my God, what's going to happen? And indeed, if it's a tenfold increase in the amount of nicotine that you're ingesting, and then clearly it seems innocent, but I'm sure it isn't. I've read an article recently about it containing heavy metals. You read these articles of people having all sorts of lung issues, like popcorn lung. I know that the lungs are not good at or not very apt at releasing water vapor. It is very early on, but clearly in a good decade, suddenly the studies will emerge.
But anyway, I'm trying to stop, and I can
Yeah.
get. I got to about 8 o'clock, but I'm going to have to. I think it might be better to actually do it in the day and not because I'll do it more at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are so addictive. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to take it away with me or not, because in LA no one smokes or anything.
Do they vape? Well, you'll be able to tell us when you come.
I think vape, it's more accepted if you smoke people alike. But everyone smokes weed.
No, it's legalized over there.
Yeah. So I'm going to be getting high on the wacky tobacco. Yeah, for 20.
Maybe you and your dad will be.
I don't know if
smoking
that's a good
blunts.
idea, or maybe it is a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah. But I think another aspect of this whole journey is not just about pushing you outside your comfort zone, and that's another added, tool in your arsenal is why am I doing this? You can focus on your emetophobia and the OCD, but I would invite you to focus on what I do believe to be quality time between a father and a son. And I know your opinion may differ slightly, but ultimately you will look back at this time in the similar vein, meaning, yeah, it's quite rare for a son and a dad to have that time to bond, to spend time, and even if you have the arguments or you butt heads at time, I'm convinced it is, a really valuable time.
I mean, funnily enough, when I think Mum had told him that he should come with me, he was kind of umming and ahhing, and then I was trying to actually convince him, because I did think, he needs to get away and stuff, and I kind of said, you're 74, when are you really going to take an 11-hour flight to go away again? Are you really going to want to start doing 11-hour flights? Or are you ever going to see, ever going to go here again? And that's what kind of made me go, oh, that's a good point, actually. He hadn't really thought about that. So maybe it is. We'll see. We'll see. But
so that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not all about you. If you feel you have a responsibility towards your dad, and you can be there for him in a meaningful way, again, it takes the attention away from that,
the boogeyman.
The boogeyman, yeah, and it's real, isn't it? It's not invented. I think it's just, you may have overlooked it, but if you were to spend a bit of time delving into what that means for you to take your dad on a trip to LA, and then he would view it the opposite way, like, oh, I'm taking Sam, but ultimately you're both supporting each other in a way, which is conducive to personal growth, and I think it's lovely. So there again, there's a multitude of things you can do which will make it easier to go. It still won't be easy, but I think also knowing that despite whatever emotions come up and you experience, you just need to put one foot in front of the other, and until you reach your goal, and then you'll be back, and you look back and you think, you'll have a sense of achievement, you'll feel proud about what you've done. Hopefully it gives you momentum to keep going.
It's just it's the what ifs.
Yeah.
What if this, what if that? One of my friends that I spoke to yesterday, and I said, I'm getting pretty nervous now. And they just said, you've been talking about this for so long. If the worst comes to the worst, you come back. And, you jump back on a plane and come back. But they said, I don't think you will. So,
well, I'm sure you won't.
It's just it's the getting nervous again now.
Yeah, okay. But the one thing and I think that's ultimately, if all else fails, the one thing you know about yourself is that you can do it regardless of how scared it makes you feel. You can do it, and there's proof if you look back at the past, there is proof of that. It is not just a hope that I'm asking you to hold on to. There is tangible proof, factual proof, that even if your anxiety is going through the roof and it prevents you from sleeping and eating, you can put one foot in front of the other, and you can get through this, you could say dark tunnel. It feels very scary. It is an isolating and therefore lonely experience, regardless of if someone is holding your hand, so to speak, or not. But just know you can, as long as you keep walking, however dark, however lonely the experience is in the tunnel, you will start to see light at the end of the tunnel. And just however slowly you do it, even if you stumble, and you will stumble, there will be lapses. It doesn't mean you go back to where you came from. It just means you take a stumble, you dust yourself off, maybe a few grazes, and then you keep on walking. You keep on doing that. Trust the process, and you'll be out in the light. And so I think that's I have full trust that you'll be able to do it. Will you be anxious? Shit, yeah, you'll be anxious.
Yeah. I already know. That's the thing. I do already know that. It's just, I think it's always that. Could it be this time? Is it this? Is it?
Okay.
But yeah. So hopefully we'll come back and if not, I'll do an episode from LA. Emmanuel has already said that he's going to fly his family out there to come meet us. And yeah, I don't really have too much else to cover.
No, I think
on
that's
this.
fine. It's just an episode on a very timely episode on emetophobia and OCD.
Yeah, and
It's
I
also-
actually did text you the other day and said I don't think I should do the episode today because I don't think I'll be in the right frame of mind. And you said no, this is exactly why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing to keep in mind.
How do you feel about having done the episode?
I'm still nervous, obviously. I
Yeah.
don't think that's going to go away.
No. But do you regret having done the episode?
No, I just hope it's not too boring for people and going, it's just because I do understand that when, this to me is an enormous thing, like a very scary kind of thing to him or whoever, like you maybe or other people, doesn't mean anything. It's very why are you panicking? So I do understand that bit as well.
Yeah. Okay.
That some people might just it's not that interesting, but we'll see.
Okay. I think it's interesting in that again, there's anxiety. We all know it. It's an emotion which is necessary to have, but there's not a single human, or there are maybe there are some, but it's an emotion that all of us know, and whilst we may not know the fear of going abroad and what if we are unwell, inevitably there's a level of empathy and there's a level of that feeling I know when I need to give a presentation in front of my colleagues, or that feeling I know when and just fill in the dots. Yeah. So to that extent, I'm sure you can transpose the anxiety and it's applicable because it's the same mechanisms. Yeah. Avoidance, reassurance.
Yeah. What do you call it? Imaginary thinking.
Yeah. Visualization of the worst, catastrophizing, and then making up excuses. Yeah. As to procrastinating, or later will be better, and basically telling yourself fibs and believing them.
Agreed. Go towards the fear.
Yeah.
Not run up. Don't run away.
Yeah, and ideally without reassurance, without anyone telling you it'll be fine, Sam. Just find out. It may be fine. It may not be fine.
No, see, I don't like that bit.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
all the
like
more
that bit.
reason. Yeah. All the more reason why you should do it. But that's the reality. Like, exposure response prevention is not exposure. The R doesn't
Check if you are okay.
It doesn't stand for reassurance. It's exposure and response prevention without the reassurance. Yeah, and that's where. But I would argue even with a level of reassurance, as long as you push yourself, there is gain. But the theory is that ideally, if you really want the best success possible out of exposure and response prevention, you do it without offering reassurance to the client.
Hopefully I'll have a good time. Should we wrap up?
Yep.
Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, and peace.